Okay guys, today I'm doing an introduction to Yummy, probably the most unique of the Justice Hunter archetypes in that it does not revolve around turn 0 plays. Instead what we get here is a combination of extremely effective engine pushes, great not once per turn effects, and the ability to play out of our own turn very often in order to stop our opponent being able to play, but in a very interactive way. So, if you're new to my channel, I tend to stay away from combos and spreadsheets, and instead I focus on deck theory and game plan. What are the primary gimmicks or mechanics that a deck revolves around that makes it good? So in this video, I will do three things. Firstly, an overview briefly of the most central cards in the archetype, so you're not lost later in the video. Secondly, a brief explanation of the primary gimmicks or mechanics that make this deck good. And thirdly, I will show you some replays to explain how to sequence your lines in order to achieve said game plan. Okay, let's get started with the card overview. So there are three main deck monsters, Cupsy, Cookie, and Lollipop, that have their own corresponding synchro monster in the extra deck. So there's a Cupsy synchro, Lollipop synchro, and Cookie synchro, and also a Link 1. So the Cupsy monster, Cupsy Yummy in the main deck, has the effect, if you control a Link 1 monster or a level 2 synchro monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, but you can only do that once per turn. This inherent summon gimmick is shared by every single main deck monster, so this is not an effect. This does not start a chain. This is not an activated effect. There's no colon or semicolon here. So this is cool because it means that the first point of interaction for your opponent is not you doing something like activating an effect in hand to summon this. It's you're summoning it, and then you can choose to use the on-summon effect or not. So if this card is normal or special summon, you can add one Yummy card from your deck to your hand except itself, or if this card was special summoned by a Synchro Monster's effect, you can draw one card instead. These also all have the same gimmick where if they're summoned by a Synchro Monster, you get to change their on-summon effect. So then Cookie Yummy says, same inherent summon. If you control a Link 1 monster or level 2 Synchro, you can special summon it from your hand once per turn. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, it loses 1000 attack. Or if this card was special summoned by a Synchro Monster's effect, you can destroy that monster instead. So this is the offensive Yummy in the main deck. Then we have Lollipop Yummy. Same inherent summon if you control a Link 1 or a level 2 Synchro. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target one card in your opponent's graveyard, shuffle it into the deck. Or if this card was special summoned by a Synchro Monster's effect, you can banish that card instead. And of course, these are all once per turn effects. So then we have two field spells and a quick play. So there is a defensive field spell in Minion that gives all Yummy monsters you control 500 attack for each light beast monster on the field, and of course they're all light beasts. So even though, Cupsy is 0 attack, Cookie is 1000, and then Lollipop is 600, they're actually going to have extremely high attacks, and it'll be very easy to run over your opponent's monsters or OTK as long as you have access to this field spell. If you control a Link 1 monster, you can target a level 1 Yummy in your graveyard, special summon it. Now, this targets a level 1 Yummy, which means you cannot bring back the Synchros or the Link 1, it has to be a main deck monster. Then both field spells share the same effect, where if it is in your graveyard, you can target 2 Yummy monsters in your grave and or banishment, place them and this card on the bottom of your deck in any order. So it's very cool that you have that option to recycle your resources that way. So a Crocky is the offensive field spell that you will be placing out of turn. If you Synchro summon a light beast Synchro monster, which are all of your Synchro monsters, you can target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. So that's why this is an offensive card. If a face-up monsters you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, which will often happen because your opponent's turn is what's going on when this is on field, you can special summon one Yummy monster from your deck. If this card is in your graveyard, same thing, target 2 Yummy monsters in your grave and or banishment, place them and this card on the bottom of your deck in any order. Finally, we have Yummy Surprise. This is the one card I'm really not sure about the ratios for. You'll see in a moment. So this card is not once per turn, but it has 3 effects and each effect is once per turn. So the first one, you can target 2 light beast monsters you control and 2 cards your opponent controls, return them to the hand. Now, you are not actually going to be returning the monsters you target on your field to the hand. You're usually going to be chaining some effect that uses them as a material to Synchro summon. And because this says return them to the hand, this does not check at resolution to make sure that everything is returned. So if you target your 2 guys and then you use them as Synchro material, your opponent will still have their cards bounced and you don't lose anything. The second effect special summons a Yummy monster from your hand or graveyard, but it cannot attack directly this turn. And then the last effect returns a field spell from your face-up field or graveyard to the hand, and then you can place one Yummy field spell from your hand face-up on your field. So this is great because this is either a defensive way to play through something your opponent has done, or it's offensive. So this is really great that all these effects are packed into one card. Okay, so then we have the extra deck. So this is the last part of the card overview I'll do. I'm not going to go into every single card. So we have the Link 1 Yummy Snatchy, which requires a level 4 or lower Light Beast monster. So if this card is special summon, you can place one Yummy field spell from your hand or deck face up on your field, and you cannot link summon Link 3 or higher Link monsters for the rest of this turn. So this effect is once per turn, but because you're going to be using this in both turns, you can see how you can choose to place the defensive one on your turn and then the offensive one in their turn. Then this has another effect that is once per chain, so it's infinite times per turn, just once per chain. During the main phase, so either player's main phase or your opponent's battle phase, quick effect, you can pay 100 life points. Immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon one synchro monster using monsters you control as material, including a Yummy. So technically you can synchro whatever, but you do have to use a Yummy as material. Now this Link 1 monster, and any Link 1 monster in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be treated as a level 1 tuner by all of the Yummy synchro monsters. So that's a central part of how this deck works. For this card, Synchro Summon, you can treat one Link 1 monster you control as a level 1 tuner. You can only use each of the following effects of Cupsy, Yummy, Way, so the Cupsy Synchro, once per turn. If this card is Synchro Summoned, you can add 2 Yummy monsters from your deck to your hand, then discard 1 card. So just like how Cupsy searches for a Yummy card, the Cupsy Synchro searches for 2 Yummy monsters, but then you do have to discard a card. Then the last effect is shared by all of the Synchros, and it says when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can return this card to the extra deck, special summon up to 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard. So then we have the Lollipop Yummy Synchro. So this one says same thing, where for the Synchro Summon, you can treat a Link 1 monster as a level 1 tuner. If this card is Synchro Summoned, you can special summon 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard, but negate their effects. Same last effect, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can return this to the extra deck as cost, special summon up to 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard. So this one is a double monster searcher, this one is a double monster reborn, and this one is the aggressive one, so the cookie one. Says, if this card is Synchro Summoned, you can target up to 2 face-up monsters on the field, change them to face-down defense position. And then the same last effect, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can return this to the extra deck as cost, special summon up to 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard. Okay, so let me go over some lines now, and then I'll talk about the actual deck list later on. So firstly, let me show you the absolute most basic thing you can do with a 1.5 card combo. So let's say we start with a blank Yummy name. It's not like we're summoning a Cupsy and searching. We're just starting with a blank Yummy, and we can turn that into the Yummy Link 1. Now when the Yummy Link 1 is special summoned, remember it does not have to be on Link Summon. When it's special summoned, we get to place a field spell. So in this case, we're going to place the minion because this is the defensive one. And if we have a Link 1, any Link 1 on field, the minion is able to reborn one of our level 1s from grave. It is worth mentioning, if you are afraid of nib or whatever, you just want to save this reborn for later on, you may want to use gas from your hand instead, because even if your opponent nibs you later and you have you could just turn the token into a Link Spider, which turns this reborn effect on, and you can bring out your level 1, you treat your Link Spider as a tuner, and then you still play from there. But, if you have absolutely nothing else in your hand, then you can play this way. So now we have the Link 1 on field, and we have a level 1 on field. So now we can turn those into a synchro monster by treating the Link 1 as a level 1 tuner. And here we're going to make the Cupsy. So this one is going to search, and we are going to search for the 2 monsters that we did not start with and then discard our blank. We're treating Obedient Schooled as a blank. So now we have the Cupsy and the Lollipop, and we have not used Cupsy's effect to search, so we're going to summon the Cupsy and search for the surprise. I don't think there's any case where you would not want access to surprise, because this is either a way to get something back from grave to keep playing, or it is a strong offensive push in your opponent's turn. And because this is a spell card, it's a different type of layer. You never want all of your power to be concentrated in one zone, like all monsters in the monster zone, and then lose to something like a Dark Ruler. You always want to have different layers available to you. So we have the surprise in hand. Now let's say, hypothetically, that you ended your turn here. Maybe you want your opponent to drop a nib or whatever. You're actually pretty safe. So let me tell you what this board does and what happens if they nib you. So if you try to pass turn and they nib you, you're going to get a nib token. You're going to turn the token into a Link Spider. Then, because you have not used all 3 Yummies to special summon themselves if you control a Link 1, which you will have if you turn the token into a Link Spider, you will have the Link Spider and the Lollipop Yummy on field. And because you have not used the Lollipop Synchro, you could then turn those into the Lollipop Synchro, and then this will reborn 2 cards but negate their effects. So now you would have 3 bodies on field. You can turn one of them into another Link 1 if you want, so that you can just quick synchro in your opponent's turn. So you have options from there. So you're not really worried about being nibbed. But let's say that you actually pass turn and this is what your board looks like. So as with all the synchros, when your opponent activates a card or effect, Quick effect, you can return this card to the extra deck as cost, special summon up to 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard. So the cool thing about this effect is if we special summon the Yummy Snatchy, on special summon, this can now place our offensive field spell, and then that means that the next time we synchro summon in our opponent's turn, we can use its trigger to pop a card on field. But because we're going to be able to bring out 2 from graveyard, we're also going to be able to bring out the Cookie. And the Cookie, remember, can destroy a monster on field if it's brought out by a synchro. So just the Cupsy, using the effect to put itself in the extra deck and then reborn 2, is both going to give us the offensive field spell as well as the Cookie pop. And then because we're going to have a non-negated Yummy Snatchy on field, we can use this effect to turn itself and whatever other body into, for example, the Cookie Synchro to do a double book. So you're going to have all of your in-engine plays from there, and usually at some point along the way, based on what your opponent's doing, you're going to chain the surprise and target 2 of the cards you plan on using as synchro materials and then bounce 2 of your opponent's cards. So you have quite a lot of options from here, and obviously you can just continue playing more and more. You could even make the Cupsy on your opponent's turn so that you're searching so you have more plays on your own turn. If you are not scared of Nib and you just want to like play more, you can do exactly the same combo here where you place the defensive field spell, you use the Reborn, you go into the Cupsy Synchro, you summon the regular Cupsy, and then you use all of your bodies to go into an IP Masquerena just so that you can make an SP out of turn as well. Because remember, even though you only have this on board, when you pass turn, your opponent activates whatever card or effect, and this goes back into your extra deck, you're going to bring out the Yummy Snatchy, place the offensive field spell, and then you're going to choose which of the Yummy bodies you want on field. If there isn't anything good to pop at the time, you don't bring out the Cookie. You could bring out a Cupsy instead and then draw a card because you don't have to search if this comes off of a synchro effect. Or if you want to do something to your opponent's graveyard, you can choose the Lollipop instead, and then you just continue playing from there. Because remember, the Link 1 is not once per turn, so as long as you have bodies to continue playing, like every single time you bring out a synchro monster, that guy can tag himself out into 2 monsters. And then your Link 1 can just, continue allowing you to synchro as long as you have access to a Link 1. So, yeah. I'll show you just a couple more. So if you were trying to play a lot more cards and you want to get a lot more stuff into rotation, and you're starting with the same 1.5 card combo. So you turn your blank Yummy into your Link 1, which places your minion. Remember, this is the gas field spell, the defensive one. That reborns your guy. You go into your Cupsy because you want to search. You search for the Cupsy and the Lollipop, discard your blank. Now you can special summon the Cupsy, search for your surprise because you always want surprise. And then you can summon your last body. So this is for when you want to go into a Metal Marcher. So we summon our last body, so we have our level 1 Light Beast on field to use later. And we're going to turn our Cupsy Synchro and our Cupsy Regular into a Metal Marcher. Now the Metal Marcher can only reborn tuners from the grave. So unfortunately, Metal Marcher and his own effect cannot go into Herald. You have to bring back your own Synchro monster, but it negates the effects. So you cannot just bring this back and leave him on field. The effects are negated. However, what you can do is you can just make sure you have access to the Link 1 still. So we turn this negated Synchro monster back into our Yummy Snatchy. And then we can go into our Lollipop. Because if you immediately go into Herald of the Arclight, you're not going to have as many bodies on field as possible. But if you instead go into the Lollipop, which is the double monster reborn, you now have more bodies on field. And you have still the Metal Marcher, and now you have level 1s, so you can turn them into the Herald of the Arclight. So now you can, you could pass turn here with your Yummy Surprise and your Lollipop on field, which remember can tag out into 2 bodies. So you're going to get your Link 1 back and you're going to get your Cookie back for the pop. And then you're going to choose when you want to bring out your Cookie Synchro for the double book. And remember also that whenever you bring back your Snatchy from grave out of turn, you're going to place the offensive field spell so you also have a pop there. So let me see, is there anything else that I wanted to show you? Oh yeah, so there's the thing with Engage / Hornet drones is, let's say you open Engage or Hornet drones, so basically you have access to Hornet drones. Activating Hornet drones summons a token. You can turn the token into the Kagari, and the Kagari can now add back the Hornet drones, and because this is not once per turn, we can now make another token. And remember that the extra deck monsters are generic. It's a tuner and a non-tuner monster, but you can treat the Link 1 as a level 1 tuner. So you basically have all of the materials just with the Sky Striker cards to go into the Yummy stuff. So I feel like maybe you don't have to play the Sky Striker cards. That's not what I want to say. There are other engines you can play in this deck, but I think the Sky Striker cards are uniquely positioned in that they are full combo on their own, but they don't have to be, because the engage can be anything. Whatever other Sky Striker toolbox card you want to play, like Widow Anchor or Afterburners or Shark Cannon or whatever, or maybe there's one or two you want to put in your side deck for certain things. All of those can fit into your deck, and the package is really small and extremely efficient. Because you have Hornet Drones and Engage are 4 cards total, because Hornet Drones is at 1, that are all full combo. So yeah, now we can go into our Cupsy, and the Cupsy is the searcher, remember? So we search for 2, and then we discard our blank here. Sometimes if I'm choosing which 2 to search and I don't have any in rotation, I'll get the Cupsy because this is another searcher, and the Cookie because I want something offensive in my graveyard so I can get the pop in the opponent's turn. So now here I can summon the Cupsy, search for the surprise, go into the Snatchy, place my field spell because I haven't used it yet because we got to our stuff through Kagari. Bring back a body if I'm choosing to use this effect right here, and you have options. You can go into the Lollipop to bring back 2, to go into the Metal Marcher, and now as long as you have access to another level 1 on field, that can still go into the Herald of the Arc Light. And the main thing is don't forget that the Lollipop bring back negates the effects and the tag out does not. So you don't want to look kind of stupid where you're trying to use a negated Snatchy on your opponent's turn or whatever. And here I'm just showing you that there are like options for things you can do. Like if you were forced to use your quick play, for example, you can go into the new Link to Onari, which requires 2 light monsters, including a beast monster, which is all your cards. So this is your opponent cannot target cards in the field zones with card effects. That could be kind of useful. You're going to use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. If it is link summoned, you can target 1 quick play spell in your graveyard, set it. And then if it's destroyed, for each card in a field zone, you can apply one of these effects. You can destroy a card your opponent controls or burn for 15. But really, you're probably just going to be using this to reset the surprise. So I'm just showing you that you have like options for other things you can do. Or you can leave those bodies on field. You can turn them into a Snatchy, whatever, and pass your turn. So you're going to have your tag out as usual to bring your Snatchy out from the grave. And then, your Cookie. Or if there's not something to pop at that time, you're going to bring something else out instead. Okay, so I would like to do some commentary on gameplay, but this will be too long for this video. So I'll just give my final thoughts here, and then I'll do a follow-up video where I do commentary where I'm going through my plays. So I think this is an extraordinary deck. If you've been following the OCG stuff, you will know that this is the only archetype really that stands up to Vanquish Soul consistently and has really, really great placements. Even in events where this is not super well represented in terms of entrance, there are usually a bunch of yummies in the top cut. So I think that this is by far one of the strongest decks. It also has a huge amount of variation, or some decent variation in the types of non-engine and sub-engines you can play. Like for example, you can play Dominus Purge, because this is only really going to turn off your Little Knight, and that's only if you are even playing, like Masquerena or whatever. You don't even have to play this card, but that's the only thing that it turns off. You can also play Songs of the Dominators. So this one, if you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can activate this card from your hand. So the only thing this conflicts with really in terms of the non-engine is the Droll. So this says when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, negate that effect, and then if you have a trap in your graveyard, you can add a Dominus card from your deck to your hand. And then if you activated this card from your hand, you cannot activate the effects of monsters in your hand, graveyard, and banishment until the end of the next turn. But because these are all inherent summons, you're not activating anything in the hand, you're just activating them all on field. And this does not stop you activating from field, it just stops you activating from hand, grave, and banishment. So I feel like next meta, because there's going to be a lot of turn 0 stuff, Thrust and Talents is going to be in everyone's main, and you don't want to play into these cards if you don't have to. So being able to play, triple Purge, triple Songs seems good. Then Imperm in combination with that, and then you also have, your Sky Striker package with, your Widow Anchor, Afterburners, Shark Cannon, whatever it is you want to play. And maybe also like a Droplet. So yeah, you have options for that. I've also seen some people play 2 Snatchy in the extra deck, and then a more varied set of stuff in here. Like there's the Assembled Nightingale into Zeus stuff. There are lots of options. If you are playing a bunch of regular hand traps, you can also play Almirage, so that you can turn a basic hand trap that's useless into a Link 1 and continue playing from there. Those are my thoughts. If you've made it to the end of the video and you have not subscribed, like 70% of my viewers, maybe you should subscribe. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.